Okay, let's dive into this one. This is a story about a high-stakes business trip to Kampala, Uganda. A trip that goes horribly, horribly wrong. A man is found dead in his luxury hotel room, and what at first looks like a tragic accident, well, it turns out to be a chilling story of international intrigue, deception, and a meticulously planned murder.
So at first everyone's thinking, okay, a tragic overdose, right? But then the toxicology reports come back and boom, everything changes. It wasn't just cocaine. We're talking about potent pesticides. That changes the game entirely. This wasn't an accident. This was murder.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in Kampala, Uganda, back in February of 2018. This was supposed to be a promising business venture, full of opportunity, but it turned into, well, a deadly mystery. And it happened really fast.
So who was the man at the center of all this? His name was Tuomas Teräsvuori. He was a 42-year-old businessman from Finland, a consultant in security and defense tech. And he's in Kampala with some pretty high-profile company, a former Finnish minister no less. The official story? They're there to check out some opportunities in telecom and cybersecurity.
And just look at how fast this all went down. It's really chilling. He lands in Kampala on February 5th, checks into this fancy hotel. The very next day, he's found dead. And just 48 hours after that, the lab results are in. It was poison. So this case goes from a sad incident to a full-blown murder investigation, just like that.
But here's where it gets even crazier. Teräsvuori's death? It wasn't a one-off. Turns out, just 2 days before, another guy, a Swedish national, was found dead in a hotel right nearby. And guess what? Similar circumstances. You gotta be kidding me. Suddenly you're not looking at one murder. You're looking at a potential pattern.
So investigators start digging, and what they find, well, it's not just a simple crime. It's a whole web of deceit, a sophisticated and deeply deceptive plot.
Right away, the focus lands on one person, a Ugandan woman. And what's the connection? Well, she was apparently in a relationship with Teräsvuori. The motive seemed pretty clear-cut, if brutal. Robbery. They figured she was after his stuff. Valuables, sure, but maybe even some sensitive business information he was carrying.
So you have to ask yourself, how did they even get him there? How did they set this trap? It all started with a fake letter. A really good one, too. It was a forged invitation that looked like it came straight from the top, the head of Uganda's powerful internal security organization, the ISO. That one piece of paper made the whole thing look legit, and that was a fatal mistake.
When you break down how this crime was pulled off, it's just so cold and calculated. Let's walk through it. First, you forge that official letter to get him to trust you. Then you use that trust to lure him all the way to Uganda for a business deal that doesn't even exist. Step 3, you poison him with that deadly cocktail. And finally, step 4, you take his stuff. This wasn't a crime of passion, this was planned down to the last detail.
You'd think the deception would end with the murder, right? Nope. In fact, that's when things got even messier. The investigation itself just turned into total chaos. Basically, a turf war between Uganda's own powerful security agencies. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got the Ugandan police. They're the ones who first said it was an overdose, and the ISO even accused them of messing with the autopsy report. But then you have the ISO, the internal security guys. They were screaming murder from day one and claimed the police actually doctored the hotel's security camera footage. With these two giants fighting, how can you trust any of the evidence?
So after years, and I mean years of delays and all this conflicting information, the case finally makes it to court. This is where it's all supposed to get sorted out.
And man, was it a long road. Think about it. Back in 2018, the first charges were just for negligent homicide. The suspects even got bail. It took more than a year for them to upgrade the charges to murder, which, by the way, can carry the death penalty there. And we don't even get a final verdict until 2022. Just wild.
So what happened to the prime suspect? After all that time, she's found guilty. The sentence? 30 years in prison.
And the judge's reasoning here is really interesting. It's kind of twofold. Yeah, she pointed to the strong circumstantial evidence, the fake letter, the relationship, all that. But she also said out loud that this verdict was important to safeguard Uganda's image for investors. That tells you this case was about way more than just one murder. It was about national reputation.
But hold on, here's the twist. The main suspect, guilty. But her two supposed accomplices, they walk free, acquitted. And that just blows a huge hole in the whole story, doesn't it? If she didn't do it alone, but the people accused with her are innocent, then who helped her? How did it really go down?
So yeah, they got a conviction,
but this case feels anything but closed. In fact, the verdict just seems to leave us with even more questions and these lingering shadows.
And the story didn't just end in Uganda. The ripples were felt all the way back in Finland. The media there started asking some tough questions about the defense company Patria and that ex-minister Suvi Linden. Patria immediately distanced itself, saying, "Nope, no official arms deals here." Linden insisted her involvement was all above board, but for everyone else watching, it became this really scary warning about doing business abroad.
Which brings us back to all the things we still just don't know. I mean, what did those two acquitted guys actually do? Was the surveillance footage really messed with? And the big one, how did they get the poison into him? We still don't have direct proof of that. You start to wonder, were there bigger players involved? A cover-up that we'll never get to the bottom of?
So in the end, we're left with this giant puzzle. It's a mix of big business, terrible betrayal, and an investigation that was a mess from the start. We have a verdict from a judge, sure, but the whole truth, it feels like it's still out there. Which leaves us with the ultimate question. What do you think really happened in that Kampala hotel room?